And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And folks, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Get ready to call 888 Car Clinic and let's talk about your car. But first, to our wheeler dealer guest. On the Car Clinic hotline with me now are Mike Brewer and Ant Anstead, co-host of Wheeler Dealers on Velocity TV. From their Southern California shop, auto valuation expert Mike Brewer and master mechanic Ant Anstead, and this guy's really great, both of them are. They go to work finding, fixing, and flipping a wide variety of unique used cars from all over the world, literally. On every Wheeler Dealers episode, Mike hunts for a decent car at the right price, scouring classifieds, internet auctions, specialist clubs and garages before brokering a deal, and then diagnoses problems and conducts an expert how-to session for viewers as he repairs any issues and makes the car like new. When the repairs are complete, Mike and Ant road test the revamped ride before selling the vehicle to the next best owner, who will really appreciate it for all it's worth. So having said all that, I want to welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, Mike and Ant. Guys, glad to have you in the house.
Nice to be here. Great introduction.
Well, you know, it's kind of hard to follow an introduction, but I'm sure you'll handle it. So let's first go with Mike. Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers what to look for when buying a used car, because you're the man.
Okay, well, if you're buying just a general used car, you want to make sure that you've got some mechanical knowledge or understanding. If you don't, make sure that you take somebody with you who has. And if you can't find anyone, you can pay a service, so pay a mechanic locally to come and look at the car with you. I mean, that's good standing whether you're buying a car that's just even 2 years old or a car that's 102 years of age. You know, make sure that you've got some kind of mechanical understanding before you set out to buy it. A car is likely to be the second most expensive purchase you're ever going to make in your life after a house. So make sure you take your time, be careful. Both me and Ant, even with our wealth of experience, we both spend a lot of time researching car groups and car clubs and car forums before we venture into the road of buying a certain car, because it's in those places online that you're going to find the information to look out for. So, where a car would rust or rot or the problems, the indicative problems that car would have. And some people have already been through that process and they're willing to share that information with you online. You can find it either through videos on YouTube or through social media forums, and it's a real good source of valuable information, and we lean upon that all the time before we venture into the cars that we buy on the show.
So Mike, you certainly had lots of experience with this one too. Folks that are listening maybe haven't had that experience and they're not well schooled. How do you negotiate the best price?
Well, you've just got to be armed with information. If you can turn up to go and see a vehicle that you're interested in your local area, don't just turn up to go and see it without looking at vehicles that are similar, that are advertised internationally or nationally, because you may see one that's a lot cheaper but is far away. So just be armed with that information. And when you turn up to see the vehicle, you can always use that information to drive down the price of the car you're looking at. And when you're looking at the car in a garage or on somebody's driveway, you're always trying to find a reason to get something off the car. Now, most people expect probably the car business or the second-hand car business is the only business in the world where it's expected that you're to barter and you're to get money off. I can't think of you don't go in a restaurant and somebody says there's your $5.99 burger, and you say to them, will you take $4 for it? It just simply doesn't happen. But it's expected to happen in the used car business. So most people expect that there's going to be some kind of haggle, some kind of negotiation. But if you can arm yourself with just be information rich, just have some knowledge, and you should be able to drive the price down a bit.
So Mike, just one last question before I go to Ant. Are there any cars that have the best profit potential?
Yes, at the moment, the world is going through a little bit of a shift change. We are looking at the prices of the higher-end cars, the $20 million Ferraris and Aston Martins. They're starting to take a little bit of a tumble. But the mid-sector cars, the cars that are really interesting, European classics, particularly here in America, are making very, very strong money at the moment, really good, solid potential investment opportunities there. And, of course, people are always going to be looking for those fast forwards like Mustangs, like any kind of pickup truck, a Ford F1 pickup truck. They're still doing very good numbers. So that sort of basis of the collector car or classic car world is still on the ascent. But anything that's got a GT badge or a racing badge attached to it is doing particularly well at the moment.
Sounds good. We're talking with Mike Brewer, and next up is Ant Anstad. These are co-hosts of Wheeler Dealers on Velocity TV. So, Ant, let's shift gears and come over to you. I received tons of calls from listeners and viewers across the country and the globe, really, on how to get and keep a used car roadworthy and extend its life, which is my expertise as well. But I'd like for you to share with our listeners some things that you recommend.
Well, this is, it's a hot topic because there's loads of car fans out there that have cars. And this is something that Mike and I rave about all the time. Cars are supposed to be driven. It's frustrating when you see these classic cars parked up on bricks, under covers. Get your car out, put it on the road and drive it. They thrive on being used. And often if you don't use it, you're going to cause problems. And yes, there's the kind of annual service stuff that you can do at home. You can change the oil, change the fluids, check the brakes. They're all fairly basic tasks. But the biggest message that Mike and I will both give any car owner is get your car out, get behind the wheel and give it some beans.
So, Ant, I know that you and Mike have to be really excited for the new season on Wheeler Dealers, which starts next Wednesday, folks. This coming Wednesday, April the 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Velocity Network and also MotorTrend.com. So, guys, tell Car Clinic listeners and viewers about some of the season's flipping rides that you already have in the can.
Well, we can tell you that we've gone for a real eclectic mix this time with me and Ant. And if you're fortunate enough to have the internet, you can actually watch the first show right now because it's premiering on MotorTrend.com, which is a new service that we're offering through Velocity Channel, which is basically a way that you can watch the shows before anybody else. And that starts off with a 1969 Opel GT. We then move on to an 88 Jeep Grand Wagoneer, a car that's one of the very first luxury SUVs out there. We've got a modern classic, a 2004 Mini Cooper S. We went for a special edition MC40. An Alfa Romeo Spider, a 1970 International Harvester Scout. We reset the clock on Wheeler Dealers, looking at the very first car we ever did 15 long years ago, a Porsche 924, and we revisit that. We look at the rising popularity in these little Japanese classics, which is the 1972 Datsun 510. And, of course, we've had this on the list for many, many years, but Ant was desperate to get his hands on one, and we're so pleased we did. It's the amazing Lancia Fulvia from 1972, and we drove that yesterday, and it was a thrill.
Well, that's an unbelievable list. You talk about eclectic automobiles, from a 69 Opel GT to an International Harvester Scout, which, by the way, was kind of a neat automobile. So, Ant, in closing, let me ask you one more question. When you take an engine apart, and I've seen you take lots of engines apart, and oil leaks and those sorts of things, do you find sometimes it's difficult to know when to stop? In other words, if you get into the motor and you replace camshaft and lifters, how much deeper do you go? And, it's a question of how much do you want to restore to like new, or what is acceptable in the way it's ride? How do you determine how deeply to go into an engine repair?
Well, first of all, you can make a decision with your head or your heart. And very often I get carried away with my heart. I just keep going and going and going. And the next thing I know, I've completely rebuilt the engine. But do you know what? It's about viability. It's about at what point is your work affordable? And yes, you can throw a load of cash at a car and make it amazing. But actually, most people's car projects are done within a budget. So it has to be a sort of a balance of finding it's within your wallet and at the same time finding out what the car needs. So you've got, each car's unique. You've got to draw the line somewhere and don't do what I often do and get carried away.
Well, that was a personal question because I've been there and done that, and it is your heart or your wallet, and somewhere along the line you do have to draw the line. And I think that the best way for me to go forward and our listeners is to tune in to Wheeler Dealers on Velocity TV. And, folks, that's next Wednesday, April the 11th. And also, it's really cool that you're on MotorTrend.com. I want to thank both of you. Mike, great to talk with you at Voice to Voice. And Ant, I'd love to have you guys to visit the Gulf Coast of Florida when you have an opportunity to come and see our shop and maybe do a live broadcast right here from the Car Clinic studios that we say is from the center of the automotive universe. I really appreciate you guys coming in. Look forward to meeting you face to face one day.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.